Dagwe. I'm a product manager. I actually started as an operation officer in one of the firms here in Lagos. So basically, I didn't study anything technical related to product management at first. I studied plant science and biotechnology as my first degree course. And then I switched into product management. So my first basic experience was when I joined Patricia. I am an ex-Patricia, so I was at Patricia, and then, started the whole process from the ground floor. And then when the business was about to scale, I was there for a while, and then I got admitted to proceed for my MBA classes. So I had to leave. So other jobs I had was basically on contract basis. I was also at Deloitte at some point, I was under Tony Elumelu Foundation. So basically what they needed was a product manager to help, sense check some of the products that entrepreneurs are bringing into the world, basically. And then I got my full other experience with IBIC Holdings, helped them to ship in some products, and then auto check, and then Prunage and the pipeline. And here I am, still a product manager. So let me quickly share my screen. So that's my journey so far. Let me share my screen so we could just proceed properly. I think I can't share my screen at the moment.
Okay, Mr. Maka, please can you give him permission? Thank you.
Okay, hello, Niti. Okay, try again, please.
All right, see.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Flow. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
See. Okay. All right. So today, basically, we'll be talking about Agile methodology. And so this is just the introduction. Like I mentioned before, my name is Nielsen Odagwe. I'm a product manager in the pipeline. I'm currently working with Prunage, and also helping other businesses to scale their product and then shipping in some delightful products. So basically for today, here is what we'll be looking at, or what we'll be looking into, right? We'll be talking about, what Agile is really, right? And then we'll also talk about Agile values and principle, which will come on when we start discussing fully on Kanban and Scrum. So we'll also talk about the practices, the benefits, and then the frameworks of these various Agile processes, the values, and then most importantly, the meetings that are also associated with these various Agile frameworks. Please let me confirm if you guys can still hear me at the moment before I proceed.
Yes, we can. You can also check the chat too, because most of the students, they are not able to speak, so they'll be using the chats also.
Oh, okay. So I think I'll go through the chat maybe halfway or immediately I'm done. So possibly questions can pop up along the line, and then we'll be able to take it together. All right, so basically, I know we have heard about, or we've been hearing about Agile, just like in my previous days, right? And we try to know what is Agile, what Agile really means, right? So simply Agile is just the ability to create and respond to change, basically in any environment, right? So that is what Agile is in a layman's words. So it is just a way of dealing with and ultimately succeeding in an uncertain or turbulent environment. So it's not like you have to see Agile basically as a mindset, because most times, you hear about Agile methodologies and all of that. So a lot of things that comes our mind is that there's a particular process that, that has to do with Agile. So I want you guys to basically see Agile more like a mindset kind of thing, right? So Agile methodologies are just conventions that teams, right, various teams across various organizations chooses to follow in a way that allows Agile's values and principles, right? So, and then there are these various or these specific principles that applies to Agile methodology in order to carry out your activities or maybe at the cost of shipping out a product or feature for your particular organizations, right? So this brings us down to, this also boils down to, talking about the various frameworks that are also associated to this Agile, right? So for the purpose of this section, we'll be specifically looking at into Kanban and Scrum, right? So there are still other frameworks, but for the purpose of this class, we'll just be talking about Kanban and Scrum. All right, so Kanban, basically, right? The word Kanban actually originated from Japan. Yeah, remember, right? So it simply means a signboard, or rather a sign or a billboard in Japanese language, right? So it started basically in the year 1940s, right? When a production system in Japan trying to, they schedule a system for lead management originating from Toyota production system, basically, right? So during that time,
Niti, for interrupting you. Okay, I think you can't really see your slides and it's really very small. So I don't know if you can zoom it. And it's just showing at the bottom end of your screen. So it's not showing the entire screen. Yes, please.
Okay,
yes.
See. Let me try and share again.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. We try and share again. Okay. Okay, maybe I should try from here.
Oh, yeah, this is better.
This is better, right?
Yes.
All right. Is it showing the full screen?
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay. Where did I stop? Or is it? Okay, so as I was saying, right? So this actually, during that period, right, the Toyota industry or the Toyota production company introduced what we call just-in-time production, right? So what they needed to do, what they were doing basically was they were just trying to, make their process more lean, right? And make it way easier for production and then avoid inventory and wastage, right? So what they were doing was, try to make production as customers make their demand, right? So by so doing, they don't have to, make production or get products ready. They remove the time wasting in the process, and then also remove the idea of looking for space to store all of those things before dishing out to customers. So what they do is that they make productions as customer makes their demand. So that's basically what was referred to just in time as at that time. So the idea is just to make the process lean, faster, eliminate waste, and then inventory, right? So around the 21st century or so, it was also introduced into various sectors, right? We had the IT, software development, research and development, and others also brought that into existence with the help of David Adamson and his team. Right. So as I mentioned before, right, Kanban basically is just a lean flow management method for defining, managing, and improving services that delivers knowledge or value, right? So when you hear lean system is all about eliminating waste and then making your process fast, right? So it is a framework that intends to implement the flow, or rather workflow, through handling requirements along with viable capacity. So just like I mentioned before, the idea is just to make the process lean, make it faster, and then work with basically work with what you have at hand. So in the course of carrying out this framework, there are some basic practices. So I'm streaming this down or way down to product management or software development, basically, right? So there are some very key practices that help you to, carry out these Kanban processes, right? Which I have mentioned here, right? We'll take them one by one. So one of them basically is your visual board, right? I know there are a lot of tools these days that we can use in software development. We have ClickUp, we have Jira 2, we have Trello and all of those things, right? But then, when this started, right, the Kanban process is all about usage of cards and boards, right, to visualize what you intend to do or what you want to do or what is currently in progress or what you have achieved over time, right? Another one is, so for now, let me just quickly show you a picture of what this board basically looks like before I come back to this, right? So using what we have, basically, this is just a simple Kanban flow, right? To visualize what you have. In most of the swim lanes that we have currently, for this, you have requested, in progress, and done, right? But then most of the swim lanes you have currently, you can use to do, in progress, and also you have done. There are few other swim lanes you can also add to this, right? But this is just basically what it is for Kanban flow, right? For you to be able to carry out this basic framework, right? So what you need is just to visualize the process, like I mentioned, with the Kanban system, right? So you need a board, cards, and columns, right? Like I mentioned before, most of the softwares these days already helps us to carry out that. So another thing or another key practices that hold this Kanban, right, is to limit your WIP, or rather your work in progress, right? So in the course of software development these days, right, for most of them who are not actually used to most of these practices, you'll find out that you have a lot of people in your team working on a particular project, and then you also have a lot of different kind of projects actually going on at the same time. So what you do in order to keep to this particular practice is that the team decides on a particular number of tickets or projects, depending on the kind of industry they're working on, that will be in progress at a particular time. So let's say we have 6 tickets currently in progress. So the idea is that the six tickets is the maximum that we can have in progress at that particular time. So whatever job that needs to be done, we have to move up a particular ticket that is in progress to possibly done or another stream lane before we can bring in any other project. So by this way, it helps you to check and make sure that you also keep up with the particular practice, right? Why? So like I mentioned, one of the Kanban primary functions here is to ensure that you manage the number of items that you have in progress. So that is it for limiting the work that you have in progress, which is WIP. So the next particular practice that hold this is to managing your workflow, right? So managing workflow, right, is about managing the work basically, not the people that you're working with, right? So by flow, we mean the movement of the works or the items through production process at a predictable or sustainable pace, basically. So one of the main goals here is implementing Kanban system is to create a smooth and healthy flow. That is all the idea. So just to manage your flow and make sure that you move your tickets according to how the system is agreed to be. So the next one is, make your process and policies explicit. So this is another key practice that holds Kanban, right? You can't improve something that you don't understand. That is just basically it. So that is why in this process, we should be clearly defined, or rather published or so that, and people would not actually associate or participate in something they do not believe will be useful. So it's important that everyone familiarizes themselves with the common goal, right, that you want to achieve with this, and the decisions regarding to the positive impact that you have for a particular project or ticket that you have So another key practices here that holds Kanban is implementation of feedback loops, right? For teams and companies, most cases that want to be more agile, implementing feedback loops is a mandatory step for them, right? So they ensure that organizations are adequately responding to potential changes and enable knowledge transfer between stakeholders, right? So this is another key factor that also, or rather another key practice that also holds Kanban in place. So the last that we have here is to improve collaboration, basically, or rather improve collaboration between your team. So the way to achieve continuous improvement or sustainable change within an organization is to go through collaborative implementing changes based on significant proven methods that the system have in place, and then you have feedbacks and also metrics to measure some of these changes that you have done. So benefit of using Kanban, basically, right, is that increased visibility of the flow. It's also improve delivery speed, alignment between goals and execution. It's also improve predictability. It improves dependencies management and also increases customers' satisfaction, right? So like I mentioned before, or rather like I said before, so this is what a simple Kanban flow looks like. So you have to do, or you have in progress, and then you have done. So like I mentioned, depending on various industries, and then depending on different teams, and also depending on what works for the team, right? Sorry, I had to make this bigger, right? So depending on what works for the team, please let me know if the screen is up again. I'm trying to make it bigger.
Okay, it has gone off.
All right.
Okay, it's showing now.
All right. So depending on what works for the team. So you have to do, which I have here is requested. You have in progress, and then you have done, right? So this varies for different teams and different organizations, right? So there's no specific way to this. There are other swim lanes I can also add to this. All right, so that is that for Kanban. We'll likely talk about some of the key policies along the line, but then let's just quickly visit what we have for Scrum. Right. So I know before now we've been hearing about Scrum, and all of those things. So basically, Scrum is just an iterative software engineering process to develop and deliver softwares. It is just as simple as that. So this is one of the key major frameworks that I mentioned earlier when you talk about various agile frameworks, right? And these Scrum frameworks, there are some key frameworks, or rather main component Scrum frameworks that actually hold this, and which I have also aligned here, or rather all of them here. I will go in details to explain this one by one as the lectures goes on, right? So one of the key things here is the 3 Scrum roles that you have in the Scrum framework. So which is the Scrum product owner, the Scrum team, and the Scrum Master. As the lecture goes on, I may just get to touch more on each of these ones, right? And then another key factor to that whole this Scrum framework is the 5 Scrum meetings, or rather the 5 Scrum events or rituals that we have. So just to quickly mention them, one of them is your Scrum Grooming or Backlog refinement meeting. You have your sprint planning meeting. You have your daily Scrum meetings, which we call our daily stand-ups. We have the sprint review meeting, and then we also have retrospective meeting, right? So all of these things actually falls under this Scrum rituals meetings or ceremony that I mentioned. So another one is your product backlog, right? So this is more for those of us who are familiar with some of these recent tools that we use in project management. This is just basically an artifact that is used to manage and prioritize all of the known requirements for the Scrum project, right? So that is what this product backlog is all about, or the Scrum backlog, right? So all the things that you need to do, right, that is already known about the project requirements. So this is where you actually come. This is where the Scrum product owner actually comes to keep them. And then the next one is the sprint. So we hear sprint, that our sprint have started, our sprint is about to happen, or the sprint just ended. So these are another key frameworks also that holds the Scrums in place. So basically, sprint is just a cycle of work activities, or should I say, develop shipwares of, a series of activities, right, that happens within a particular time. So when you hear sprints, most times it could be start at 2 weeks, between 2 to 4 weeks, but majority is advised to use 2 weeks. And then most times you can also use 3 weeks. So it's more like a series of events that happen during your development cycle. Another one you have is your sprint backlog, right? So this is just, I mentioned product backlog or Scrum backlog earlier. So this is called the sprint backlog. You can find this together where you find this. So this is just the difference between this and this. Product backlog and the sprint backlog is that this is an activity that just keep track of the requirement committed by the Scrum teams. That is what this sprint backlog is just all about. So another thing that is common to Scrum, or rather Scrum team, is that they are actually self-organizing, right? And they have these unconditional collaborations. So especially when we talk about remote works and the likes, right? So Scrum teams, do no longer need, or rather require the common idea of having a project manager in a classical sense to say, right? So with Scrum framework, the Scrum Master and the Scrum product owner share this particular role, right? So they help to self-organize the team and then make collaboration easy within the team. So another framework also is that there's this continuous improvement that happens within Scrum framework, right? So another central element is that with Scrum framework, there's continuous improvement that enables with inspect and adapt. So the Scrum team continuously to monitor, right? They monitor, they inspect, and also assess their artifacts. So when I mean artifacts, I'm talking about the sprint backlog and the product backlog that I also mentioned already. So with that, you monitor and then you find various processes and ways to also improve that. Sorry, quickly go back. All right. So another one is that in Scrum, or rather in Scrum framework, or in every project that is carrying out the Scrum process, there's something that we call unknown unknowns, right? So there's no in every project, to be specific, right? There's nothing like we have figured it out. Like we have figured it out. You can only have the high level requirement of what you want to build, right? But along the line, there are some key other areas that are still gray that you need to figure out while trying to build or ship out that product. So there's no way that you know everything or the team knows everything. So they get to learn as it progresses. So this is another key common thing that is also common to this Scrum framework, right? So every project has unknown unknowns. So sometimes it can be few, sometimes it can be a lot, right? So this Scrum framework helps us to embrace that we can discover and deal with these unknowns and unknowns, right? Only while we are running these projects, or only while these projects are actually ongoing. So the last one that we have here is transparency and direct communication, right? So this is another cornerstone that is familiar to Scrum, right? So the product owner works closely with the Scrum team to identify and prioritize requirements. So these requirements are written down as user stories or Yes, something they can written down as user story and stored in the Scrum product backlog. Right. So within, so the Scrum team is actually empowered to select a particular user stories that they want, right, to go into the sprint and all of. So there's a clear and direct communication within team, irrespective of their age, irrespective of their what's called the rank that they have in a particular organization. So it's transparency, and then they also have a clear and direct communication. So this slide that you have here, right, it just gives you an overview of what this Scrum frameworks looks like. So if you carefully look at it, right, from the top left corner, you can see the product owner here, right, that has all, all the requirements that he needs or he wants the system, he wants the Scrum team to work on. He stocks them in and then pushes them into the product backlogs, right? While they prepare to start the sprint process within the Scrum team. So you also have your Scrum Master. The idea behind the Scrum Master is, to collaborate with the product owner to make sure that all the necessary things that they want to use, they have the team capacity to carry out this requirement that the product owner have also aligned, and then it pushes it to the team, and then the sprint starts. So this arrow here simply shows you the cycle of what's happening within the sprint. So it's just like when I mentioned about the sprint meeting that happens within 2 weeks and 3 weeks, depending on what the team wants. So inside there, you have your Scrum teams, helping out, trying to ship out a particular feature or push out a particular software, right? So within these cycles, right, you have your Scrum daily stand-up, right? So every day, each and every member of the team, comes up. You have between 15 to 30 minutes stand-ups where every member of the team just come around and say, okay, this is what I've done within the last 24 hours. This is what I want to do in the next 24 hours. So these daily stand-ups, you also get to talk about some of the blockers that you are having, and within the team, they will be able to unblock you, or rather, if it's something that is outside the team, the Scrum Master can also communicate with the product owner to find a way around that to unblock you. So when the sprint is completed, you have your sprint review meeting. So the idea is that we just, everybody comes together, everybody within the sprint, the Scrum team comes together, we discuss what happened within a particular sprint. So after 2 weeks, you have your sprint review meetings. Okay, this is what we're able to come up with. This is our shippable product, or this is the value we're able to create, or this is another version we're able to come out with this particular feature within this particular sprint. And then you have your next meeting, which is usually the last, the one we call sprint retrospective. So what happened here is, everybody comes again, right? The idea is to discuss what they have done right in the last sprint, what they didn't get right, and the possible way to improve the upcoming sprint. So within the first few weeks of working within the Scrum team, this process might not be as smooth as expected, because one of the reasons is that the teams also get to know each other within that period, and then also learn to know what works best for the team. So as the time goes on and on and on, it becomes more easier and faster while carrying out this activity as a Scrum team or as a Scrum Master or product owner, basically. Right. So, so in Scrum, basically, we have some key values that is associated to Scrum framework. All right. So we have some specific key values that is associated to Scrum framework. So one of these is courage, right? So they are mentioned here, so you can see them. One of them here is courage. So the courage here is basically why the team is trying to, ship out some features or something that can give values to the organization, right? There are some key decisions that the Scrum team needs to take, right? To make sure that they're able to come up. So remember, I mentioned that Scrum basically, right, is actually self-managed. So within the team, everybody comes together, you manage, you don't need, there's nothing like know-it-all within the team. So you have everybody within your Scrum team contribute. So there are some key issues that need a very sensitive decision. So the Scrum team must have the courage to be able to take the decision. So let's say, for example, I want to use what happened within one of the businesses I was. And there's a system that has been shaking, and we know, or rather within the Scrum team, we know perfectly that there's tendency of this to shut down any moment from now. And we didn't want that to happen, right? Why we're not ready. So we're managing the system, trying to patch and all of that. So when we knew that the system was about to the fall is actually imminent. So what we did was to send out messages that we want to go on a maintenance. Even banks and most of the financial institutions, they actually do it. You hear that this particular business is actually going on the maintenance, and maintenance will happen within 24 hours. So these are very key decisions that the Scrum team should be able to come up with and then communicate with your stakeholders. So another value is focus, right? So focus here can be split into two basically. So one of them, you might be looking at it from the identification of the current work, I mean what you want to build. And then another thing is to your prioritization basically, right? So every business is, for example, if I'm employed as a product owner or a Scrum Master, what you want to ask yourself is, what is the reason why this business actually employed me, right? What is the reason behind it? I'm actually carrying out this activity. So every member of the Scrum team must be focused to be able to achieve this. So you have to be focused to be able to achieve this. So the next one you have is commitment. So every member of the team, like I mentioned, just like you have focus and courage, every member of the team must be committed to a particular project. So if you have a timeline, for example, you have agreed within the Scrum team that this is what we want to bring out and this is our timeline to carry out it. Every member of the team must be committed to be able to carry out this. So another one we have, or rather the last we have, is respect and openness. So like I mentioned before, in your Scrum team, you have people of different ages, people of different races, people of different group and beliefs, system and the likes. You must actually have respect for one another. So irrespective of the age, irrespective of the years of, or rather experience level and all of that, everyone must respect each other for this to work out perfectly fine. And then there should also be openness within the team. All right. So I mentioned about Scrum meetings. I think you want to be very, very, or rather listen attentively here, because it can be a bit tricky here. I understand that most of the businesses these days actually focuses more on Scrum. Also, that's why I decided to also take time to talk about the Scrum meetings that happened within an organization. So one of the first meetings that happen in this Scrum framework is the sprint planning, right? It's a sprint planning. So the sprint planning basically is, the product owner comes, right? It has all the requirements and all the things that we want to build. Everybody comes together. We start discussing how to carry out these activities. So you check your team capacity. It is that we have all the necessary skills to carry out or to go into this particular sprint, or we don't have that capacity. So those are the necessary things that the Scrum team actually wants to look into during this process. So the words and the house. So possibly the house can actually come into another meeting, but then you have to discuss what is achievable, what is the goal of this sprint that we are planning. So this is basically the work of the product owner, the Scrum product owner. So that's all about this sprint planning meeting. So before the sprint starts, this meeting must actually, come into play. So what you'll be looking at next in this Scrum meeting is your daily stand-ups. So daily stand-ups, as it's commonly called. So what you do, like I mentioned before, is just for you to be able to, talk to the team. I said, okay, this is what I've done in the last 24 hours. This is what I'm looking at, or this is what I want to do in the coming 24 hours. These are the blockers I'm having. And then the team will also look into, or rather find a way to unblock you. So this daily stand-ups, everybody in the team has to contribute. Everybody within the Scrum team has to contribute. So this most time is actually handled by the Scrum owner, by the Scrum Master, sorry. So the next one you'll be looking at is, or rather be looking into, is your sprint review. So the sprint review, like I mentioned before, when the sprint must have ended for the particular sprint, maybe your sprint 1 or sprint 2 or sprint 3, we have ended the sprint. So let's say the sprint is taking, or is supposed, or we agree that it's going to be 2 weeks. What happens in the real agile sense, or the real agile sense, is that while you are carrying out your activities within that particular sprint time, every work that you're not able to complete within that sprint, you have to close the sprint and then add it to the upcoming sprint. So this sprint review, you talk about what you're able to achieve within that 2 weeks within the team. We're able to ship out value, we're able to complete a particular feature or something, and then the ones you're unable to complete, you should push it to your next sprint planning section. And then you have your sprint retrospective. So I think I mentioned this earlier, right? In every sprint section, there's something we call retrospective. So retrospective is more like all of us coming again within the team and say, okay, this is what, like I said, there's always openness and clarity in communication when it comes to Scrum. Everybody individually can just stand up and say, okay, this is what happened within this particular sprint. I don't like it because during the process, it delayed my time within so number of time before I was able to unblock. And then another person can say, okay, I think I like what we did when this happened, and I like what we did when this happened. We were able to unblock ourselves and all of those things. So this is all about, talking about what worked well and what did not work well, what you like and what you do not like within that particular section. So the last one we want to be looking at is the Scrum Grooming, or rather the backlog refinement, right? So this is basically handled by the Scrum product owner, right? So it goes to the backlog, and then collaboration with your Scrum Master, you refine maybe some requirement must have changed, and then you need to change your particular user story for some of these things. You discuss with the team as, okay, I think we're taking out this based on the business needs or what the business needs. We're taking out this is what we want to ship out, and this is what we want to ship out. So that is all about the Scrum Grooming or refinement meeting. So, like we mentioned before, Scrums is, or rather in product management, majority of the work has to do with meetings, and the likes. So I think that is the end. But this time, I think we are open to questions. Rather, let me check the chat box. Let me see if I can. All right. I don't know. Emanuela, do you want to unmute, or anybody that has questions, you want to raise your hand so we can take your questions one by one?
While you were teaching, there were a couple of questions on the chat. I don't know if you can see it from there.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through. There's a lot of chats already.
Okay, we can make this easy. I can see
so I can see
maybe
somebody saying that he wants, please share your screen. Okay, slides. I'm trying to go down.
Okay, yeah, those were the older messages. So I think I should just read it from my end.
Okay,
So
I can see somebody. Okay. So somebody's asking, so Scrum and Kanban came from project management. So I can see that from Mary, right? So yeah, I want to take that, right? So before now, right, you have, so it depending, right? I want to bring it from the angle of, there are a lot of businesses that we have. Let me use Nigeria to be specific today, right? So there are a lot of businesses that we have. There are some businesses that you have, and let me say consulting companies that build softwares for companies. So in this case, there could be a project manager from the client perspectives who helps to monitor what the consulting team is doing. So for now, or rather, the answer to this question is that it does not actually come from project management, but they split most of the work basically handled by a project manager is split between the product owner and the Scrum Master. So that is why most of the frameworks, you don't actually need a project manager to carry out this. I don't know if that answers your questions. So yeah, I have another question here, right? What is the relationship between Scrum and Kanban? All right. Okay, right. So like I mentioned before, right? When we talk about Kanban, right? Kanban is more like trying to, ship out a particular or ship out value in time, right? I want to ship out value in time without wasting time, or without trying to eliminate waste within the process. Why Scrum on the other hand has to do with sorry, I can see more questions coming up. So why Scrum on the other hand has to do with a particular set of frameworks, so that comes into play. But then the idea behind this is that in Kanban, basically, you can easily predict what the expectations are, right? But in Scrum, you can easily, while you are shipping out this process, like I mentioned, there are other frameworks. You have possibly the waterfall method and other frameworks that you need to build out the whole feature before shipping out. But Scrum also gives you the leverage, or give you the that buffer period to make changes and then adapt as quickly as possible. I don't know if that answered your questions. So the next questions, I'm trying to scroll down. Yes. So the next question is, can they be used while managing the same? This answer, I'm going to answer it in two ways because I've been in this shoe before, right? So it depends on the kind of engineering that you have, right? Sorry, engineering team that you have, right? I have been in a business where we have a support team. So the support team, basically what they do is that, they help to fight bugs that comes into the system. And then I have another team that basically what they do is, they work on new features. And then when the feature is ready, they have to spread it across various regions, East Africa, West Africa, and the likes for those various support teams to take over from there. So yes, they can be used, but then it has to be in different boards, right? And then you have to, for you to be able to carry out these various framework effectively, they have to be different kind of team that is assigned to this. Can the presenter see the charts? Yes, I am seeing the charts now. So product management and product management and project management are interwoven. So the answer to this question, so basically project management is different from product management. But for you to be a good product manager, you must understand project management. So basically, yes, they are related, but are not the same thing. So the next question is, what is a blocker? So a blocker can be, so let's say from a front-end engineer perspective, right? I want to build, let me use a popular product that we have, right? So a popular product that we have is, I want to be able to view people's status on WhatsApp, right? So as a front-end person, or rather as a front-end engineer from my perspective, I can be able to bring out those screens, get the screen ready, and then when I'm able to, or maybe the Q engineer is seeing this and I can say, okay, I am having a blocker. I'm not able to get my necessary APIs that I need from a backend. So a backend person needs to supply me with the endpoints that I can call from front end for me to be able to, view what is happening, and then for others to be able to see if friends or family were able to view my status. So that can be an example of a blocker. I want to implement something. I've been able to implement it to a particular level, but I need collaboration from other team or clarity on a particular user story. So this can actually be a blocker. So an engineer can be, working on a user story, but along the line, he didn't understand, or the user story was not as clear as expected. So this can actually be a blocker until the next daily stand-up. I don't know if that answers your question. Try to go down. Yes, it empowers everyone. So is Scrum Master the same as project manager? The answer is no. I think I've been able to. Does that mean product manager isn't utilized the Scrum? So they do, right? They do. So I think it can be a little bit tricky here, right? This is a very nice question from you, Fatima. It can be a little bit tricky here. So having been here, in Nigeria, basically, and then also having little taste of what is happening outside Nigeria, and then how it is being implemented over there. So in the real sense, you are supposed to have your product manager, you are supposed to have your Scrum Master, and then you are supposed to have your Scrum product owner, right? So the relationship basically is that why the product manager is looking at, bring visions and strategy, business discussions and all of that, and then he hands over to the product owner, who ensures that, the Scrum team, try to bring this into life, and then Scrum Master is there to shed more light and then unblock the team. But in Nigeria here, right, the product manager handles all of them. A lot of businesses here in Nigeria, I'm just using that for example. So I know a couple of businesses that has Scrum Master, some of them has product owner, but a lot of businesses here in Nigeria, the product manager, you're expected to carry out all these activities as a Scrum Master, and also at the same time, Scrum product owner. I don't know if that answers your question, Fatima. What is a blocker? I think I already explained that. Okay, so what is Scrum? Because I am really not understanding. So Scrum basically is just a term. I think it was first mentioned in around 1918 or so in one of the Harvard businesses that has to do with software development. So that is exactly where the term Scrum was actually coined from. So it's just a method of trying to repeat a process, and then while repeating that process, you just bring out value or ship out something that can actually solve problems. So that is all about Scrum. It's not actually a big word. It's just a term that if you're not familiar, you're not familiar. So that is it about Scrum. So yeah, I can see God's time. I think he has answered the question. A blocker, I think, is something that impedes workflow. Yeah, exactly. So trying to go. Is it a software? Is it a way of organizing projects? Are you referring to blocker, Chineme? So it is not. So a blocker is more like something stopping you from carrying out your activity. All right. Okay. So is there any other question I'm skipping? All right. What is the relationship? I think I've answered that. Relationship between the Scrum and Kanban. Okay. Is Scrum Master the same thing as Project Manager? I think I've already answered that too. Does that mean Product Manager doesn't utilize Scrum? It does. It does. So as the case may be, Nigeria, for example, a lot of them, that is what they do. So another thing I failed to mention, right? Why carrying out this Scrum activity? There are actually some, some very key factors that impedes this process. So one of the key factors is, like I mentioned, for you to carry out this Scrum framework, right, or rather this Agile framework, Scrum to be specific, right, the team needs to be self-managed. Everybody needs to bring out ideas that they have. You make decisions, so there's nothing like know-it-all. But one of the key things that can affect this being carried out without interference is that some organizations, there is room for one or two key persons being authoritative, right? And this actually is not always best, is not best for the team, because one of the major reasons is that people won't bring out the ideas that they have. And there are some things I can actually have that I know I can use to unblock one or two members of the team, but I wouldn't come forward because I believe there's somebody that knows it all that is on the team that can carry out that. All right. Chineme, I hope we have answered your questions. I'm trying to go down, difference between Scrum and Sprint. All right, I think I mentioned Scrum already. So Scrum, Sprint is part of Scrum, right? Scrum is way encompassing. Scrum has to do with all the activities that you do, your daily stand-ups, your meetings, all your meetings, your retrospectives, all the meetings, all of them is part of the Scrum process, right? So Sprint, as the name goes, sprint, when they say somebody is a sprinter, somebody is running. So sprint basically is just, if I say we want to start a sprint, just know that every member of the team, front-end engineer, back-end engineer, the Scrum Master, we want to commit to a particular software development for the next 2 weeks. So when we say our sprint has started, so just have it in mind that we have a race that is going to happen within 2 weeks, and we have set out some targets that we need to achieve within that 2 weeks. So that is all about sprint. So until that 2 weeks has ended, you could just say the sprint has ended, and then you now have meeting. Things you're able to finish up, things you're able to finish up, things you're going to push in your next sprint. So that is all about sprint. So we just see it as a short race, a 2 weeks short race that everybody's committed to carry out an activity. So that's that about sprint. Okay, I think I've answered that. Yeah, okay. I think God's time is also sharing more light on this. So Chineme, I think you've asked this question severally. Were we able to carry out? Yes, okay. Okay, Chinedu, you are raising your hand. I think, I don't know, Manuela, do you want to give him the floor to speak? Or you need to ask a question?
Yeah, you can speak.
Okay. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
Okay, I want to use this opportunity to thank the organizer for this program. And then it's been quite insightful, and I have actually learned a lot. So my question is, in product management, does the data analyst work independently, or does he work under the supervision of the product manager?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question, right? Do you have any other one you want to add to that so I can take it together?
No, for now, this is the only question.
Okay. So, as a product manager, right? So one of the key things that we get wrong along the line, as a product manager, you are not actually managing people. I think I mentioned it during the lecture. You are not actually managing people. What you are managing, I'm using Nigeria as a case study, right? What you are managing is a process. I just want to make sure that these things are being carried out right. This is what the business wants. This is what we want to bring out to solve a particular problem. So from the data analyst perspective, right, you are not managing a data analyst. What you can do, like rather one of the key things that also the people, or rather recruiters look into product managers, is your ability to collaborate, right? The ability to collaborate, because your work is more like a 360 work within an organization, and you need to collaborate with a lot of persons, marketing, data team, your engineers, your stakeholders, and the likes. So the data analyst does not report to product manager. So if you need a particular data concerning usage of something, and then what you can do is just reach out to your data analyst that I need a data between so time and so time. And then it just delivers to you, just like the way stakeholders ask questions about products, and then you give reports to them. So you did not actually manage people. What you manage as a product manager is a process, or rather you are representing the customers within the organizations. I hope that answers your question. Do we have any other question from anybody?
Okay, everyone, if you have questions, please just drop it on the chat. If you have more questions, please just drop it. So we're going to give like a minute or two. So please drop your questions on the chat.
Yeah, Farouk is raising up his hand.
Okay, all right.
So Farouk, you can go ahead and speak.
So what I talk about the Scrum is, I think the Scrum is about maybe is a process of maybe like it's done by the developers, right?
Developers are part of the Scrum team.
They're part of the Scrum team. But
Yes.
that main thing that Scrum really implies, is it the developer that is going to do it?
Sorry, I don't understand. Come again. The main what?
I mean, the Scrum really implies. I mean, what does Scrum really implies?
Okay. Okay. Let me answer it from this perspective, right?
Okay.
Let me use all of us that we have here. I'm going to use all of us here that we have in this meeting as see all of us as Scrum team, right? And I want to believe, let's assume Emanuela is our Scrum product owner. Emanuela have made the necessary discussions with the business, and this is what the business wants. So Emanuela has helped us, to refine the product backlog, and then write out all the things that the business needs or what we want to build as a team. So when we talk about Scrum, or rather Scrum team has to do with all of us that is here. So let's say half of us are front-end developers, half of our back-end developers, including Emanuela, who is a Scrum product owner, and possibly myself, who could be the Scrum Master. So the Scrum, I know your question is, who is the Scrum itself? The Scrum is all of us. The Scrum has to do with all the...
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think he's disconnected. Yeah, Maka, can you see him on the call? So maybe
he's still on the call.
Yeah, Farouk, I'm still on the call. I don't know. Farouk, did you were you able to, or did you get my question? Should I repeat my answer? Should I repeat? I think I was off for a while. So, okay, says I should repeat, right? So you have all of us here, right? Your question is, who is a Scrum, like who is carrying out the activities of that Scrum, basically. The person carrying out the activities of Scrum is all of us. So like I mentioned, you see Manuela as a product owner, and maybe see myself as a Scrum Master. So you see yourself, Farouk, and maybe all the males in this place as back-end engineers, and all the female as front-end engineers. So all of us basically are the Scrum team. So the main thing you're asking is the process itself. The process has to do with all of us. So while the engineers are building, if they're having, something that is blocking them, what we call blocker, right? I have myself, the Scrum Master, and the Manuela, the product owner, to share my life to the team for them to be able to carry out activities. So like I mentioned, there is openness, there is clarity in communication. Everybody is equal within that Scrum team. Do I answer your question, Farouk?
Okay, Farouk, you can drop it on the chat if you understood the question. Okay, I think you just did.
Okay, yes, he does. See? Okay. Our time is almost up. Somebody is saying I should show more light on Scrum, Kanban, and Agile. Emanuela, do you have a recorded section of this?
Yeah, this is being recorded.
Okay, I think we can share that with Nifiok. Do we have any other question? Any other question?
No.
Any question from anybody? Somebody is raising up a hand, Faith. So let's take Faith and then maybe few other before. I think Faith is raising up her hand.
She dropped it, so she's no longer raising up her hand.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
I think that's all from me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Newton, for today's class. Okay, guys, please, if you have any question, you can just drop it now, or we'll be closing the session. Also, some links were dropped. So I earlier dropped a link. So I dropped Newton's LinkedIn profile. So please, guys, give him a follow, and you can reach out to him on LinkedIn, via LinkedIn, if you have any question or if you want to connect with him. So please check the chat. I'm going to copy it again and send it. So please give him a follow-up on you can follow him on LinkedIn.
I think I already saw some. I'll be able to accept it almost immediately.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you so much, Farouk, for today's session. Thank you so much.
Okay, so sorry, before we go, thank you, Newton, for the session. Learned a lot of things, and really appreciate your time for coming to lecture on this session. And also, guys, please go on LinkedIn, comment on the post and share, as well as Twitter. Thank you. Have a lovely night. So thank you, Newton. Much appreciated.
Sorry, Newton, I think there's someone, I don't know if you can see, there's someone raising God's time. I don't know. Amaka, can you see it? I can see it from my end. So I think Newton, right, there's a question for you.
God's time, I think you can go on your question.
Okay, God's time, go on with your question. So that will be the last question for tonight.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mine is not basically question, kind of contribution though. So I wanted to ask Newton, is there any way possibly the slide could be shared to us, to slide for today's class? So maybe at our leisure, we can just go through the question. Thank you.
Right. Okay, yes, is I can share. Who should I share to? Manuela, do I send to you or do I send to Costa? Can send to anybody.
No, send to Manuela, please.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
All right.
And Farouk is not a by force something. Thank you.
Okay,
all right,
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Newton. So please connect with him via LinkedIn, and Newton, please, you can accept their connection request.
Yes,
also.
I'm doing that already. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can reach out. I'll be able to take it from there.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you, Newton, once again.
Thank you, everyone. And have a lovely night. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.